day.
Oh, wow. Do you remember this?
Okay,
Yeah.
What
It's
okay.
on the chat. It's on the
so what?
What do we pick it up on Daf Chof,
Send
right?
him a picture again.
It's on the side chat.
Right, we said outside the Beis Hamikdash fire has to be lit most of the way before Shabbos.
Rabbi Israel's on the chat.
Okay, guys, we need to be quiet now, please. Coals have to be lit, only be lit slightly. And the Gemara says cooking like Bren Dusai is enough, right? A third or a half. As long as your food is a third or a half cooked before Shabbos, that's enough. Definition of bread being cooked, right? Meaning is it the bottom part that has to be crusty or the top part? Reason why Korban Pesach and fire in the Beis Hamikdash don't have restrictions is that's because people are much more careful when they're in the Beis Hamikdash. Definition of what it means to have most of the fire burning, like does it mean each piece or the whole piece? Lighting reeds and seeds. That was on Amud Aleph. Amud Beis is types of fires that can be lit before Shabbos. And then we had the new perek of Mehadrin, types of wicks that can't be used, and types of oil that can't be used. And the Gemara gives a description of all the wicks and oils, which we didn't have such clarity, exactly the translations of all those strange things. Then Daf Kafal was a continuation of that. Then combining good wicks and oil with bad wicks and oil, meaning if you're not allowed to light with a wick, you're not allowed to light with the oil, but if you add a little of the kosher oil or a little bit of a kosher wicks, and then you can combine them, right? And then lighting with melted fats in the insides of fish. And then we said all the rules of the lighting in the Beis Hamikdash have the same din as Shabbos, right? Okay, so we're picking up now, as strange as it's going to be to learn the sugya of Chanukah right now, right before Pesach, but that is what we're going to be busy with for the next 3 blocks. Okay, Daf Chof Aleph Amud Aleph on the bottom. Chof Aleph. What you got here?
I'm in brachas.
Your brachas. Shabbos is different. Where's the Gemara, please?
Not down here. Isn't it here? Did it get moved? Okay, doesn't matter. Be on the table. Don't stop yourself, Scott. Keep on moving.
Okay.
I am here.
Amar Rav Huna. Yeah, 3 lines up from the bottom. Amar Rav Huna. Psilos ushmanim shamu chachamim ein madlikim b'Shabbos ein madlikim b'Chanukah bein b'Shabbos bein b'chol. Oh, so now basically we have halachos of Shalom. If you're going to talk on your student, you can get out of here. Thank you.
Your house sounds a lot like everyone else's house right now.
No, my house actually is very nice and calm. There's some people playing Fortnite with a lot of other people and they're talking to each other. So
Fortnite? Really?
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Anyways. So
who would have thunk that Parrich's house seems like the calm place to be?
Yeah.
You're all suffering from hangovers.
Anyways, okay, so the question is the restrictions of lighting your Shabbos candles, do they apply to Chanukah candles too? So what it's going to be totally in is Top Kaz, welcome. Yeah, so what it's going to be totally in is why are you allowed to be benefiting from Chanukah and Menorah or not? If you're not allowed to benefit from it, then you could use whatever candles you want because they're not afraid that you're going to mess with it, right? On Chanukah because you're not allowed to benefit from it. That's one of the things. So let's see. Wicks and oils that the Chum said you're not allowed to light with them on Shabbos. You're not allowed to light with them on Chanukah, whether it's on Shabbos or whether it's during the week. Amar in my time with the Rav Huna. So why does Rav Huna say that you're not allowed to use them for Chanukah, whether Chanukah is on Shabbos or whether Chanukah is during the week? Because he holds that if your menorah goes out, then you have to relight it, right? Meaning, what's the halach if you light your menorah and then it goes out? Do you have to relight it or not? So this mandamar says you do have to relight it, and it's mutter, and you are allowed to benefit from the candle. So therefore, since you can benefit from the candle, and you have to put it out, and you have to relight it if it goes out. So then, therefore, we have to be concerned that you're not going to use legitimate oils and wicks, right? But you're allowed to use these wicks and oils during the week. Because he holds that if it goes out, you don't have to relight it, and you are allowed to use the candles, right? So therefore, on during the weekday you're allowed to use it, but you can't use it on Shabbos, because on Shabbos you're going to end up playing with it since you have to relight it, and since you're allowed to benefit from the candles. Amar Rav Zera, Amar Rav Masav, Amar Rav Zera, Amar Rav. The wicks and oils that the Chachamim said you're not allowed to light on Shabbos. You are allowed to light them on Chanukah, bein b'chol, bein b'Shabbos. You're allowed to use them whether Chanukah is during the week or whether it's on Shabbos. Amar Rav Yirim, my time of the Rav. What does Rav hold? Kasovar, which I'll hopefully be able to figure out. Kasovar, based on the first two opinions. Kasovar kavsa ein zaka. Well, if it goes out, you don't have to relight it. And he holds that you're not allowed to benefit from the candles on Chanukah. So therefore, why can't you light it with bad wicks and bad oil, whether it's during the week, whether it's on Shabbos? Because you're not going to go play with it, especially on Shabbos. You're not going to, because you're not allowed to play with it even during the week. So therefore, you don't have any restrictions on which candles and which oil you use. The Rabbanon said it in front of Abaya in the name of Yirmiyah, and they were not makabel it. Kiyasa Ravin, and when Ravin came, Amar Rabbanon Kamed Abaya Mishmeder of Yochanan v'Kibla. They said it in front of Abaya, and it was makabel it. Amar Izaka Gemirta l'Shmaitza Meikorev. Had I been Zoicha, I would have. Meaning they told it to him twice. First time was not accepted. The second time it was accepted. So he said, had I been Zoicha, I would have been accepted it earlier. Okay? So I'm going to ask Gomra. He learned it anyways. What's the difference when he learned the halacha that it doesn't make a difference Shabbos or during the week? So he learned it anyways. So what does he care that he should have learned it, a year ago or whenever it was? Nafkamina, the difference is L'girsa de Yankasa, which is a phrase I'm sure many have heard, which is that when you learn something when you're young, it sticks with you a lot for a lot longer. So Avaya was sad that had he learned it when he was younger, he would remember it better. Yeah, fine. So there's basically, again, to just recap, there are three opinions on whether you have restrictions on Shabbos and Chanukah on these candle restrictions and oil restrictions for Shabbos. Meaning, do the same ones from Shabbos apply to for Chanukah? Yeah, it's three different opinions. Fine. If it comes ain't so close, the Gemara asks, and if it goes out, you don't have to relight it. Or I'll ask you a stira mitzvah. The mitzvah is our famous Gemara. When are you supposed to light your menorah? From sunset until people stop hanging out in the streets. My love, is it not talking about that if you put it out, that if it went out, I'm sorry, he has to go light it again? Meaning, when the Gemara says that you're supposed to light your menorah from Shkia until nobody's left in the street, why is the Gemara telling that shear to you? Why are they telling you when that's supposed to be lit? Right? So it must be that if it goes out, you got to relight it until nobody's left in the street. So you see that you do have to relight your menorah. So we say, loy, di-loy adlik madlik. No, what it's telling you is that if you have not yet lit, then you can still light. Or it's telling you how much oil you have to put in order for your menorah to be lit. I mean, you have to put in enough oil that it lasts until after there's nobody left in the street. However, if it goes out, you don't have to relight it. Okay? And obviously, based on this Gemara is where everybody has the heta, or one of the heterim that we have, that you don't have to light menorah and come home from work at Shkia, which during the winter is around 4:30, is because since the whole measurement is when people are still in the street, so nowadays people are in the street till way later, so therefore you don't have to light menorah at that proper time, right? And then some want to say, though, and you have to be machmir, that now that people are in the street till 8, 9 o'clock, so there are 10 o'clock, there are opinions that say you have to make sure your menorah stays lit, not for a half hour, but really for 3, 4, 5 hours. Okay, but that's a Chanukah sugya, right? Yeah. So fine, right. Until there's nobody left in the street. Bad kama, how much is that? The Talmudoi, which were these salesmen, so they were the last people on the street. So when those guys leave the street, that's how long you have to light it for, which the post can say is a half hour. Right? Fine. They were wood salesmen, people that sold wood so that people can light overnight. Yeah. Fine. Right? Another Gemara that we're all familiar with. The mitzvah of Chanukah is a person that's going to light him and his household. Mehadrin, and if you want to light even better, ner l'chol echad v'echad, not just one ner for the household, but a ner for each and every person that's in the household. But Mehadrin, Mehadrin, and those that want to do even better, according to Beis Shammai, on the first day of Chanukah, you light 8 candles, and then you go lower as you get through Chanukah. So then second day 7, third day 6, etc., etc. On the first day you light 1, and from there on you keep adding. Yeah. Amar Ula. So Ula said, there were 2 Amirayim that had a different disagreement in my Rav. In Eretz Yisrael, Rav Yosef Rav and Rav Yosef Bar Zvida. Rav Yosef Rav and Rav Yosef Bar Zvida. Chad Amar time of the Beis Shammai connected, meaning they didn't have a disagreement in halacha. They had just a disagreement on why Beis Shammai said his thing, right? Why he said that you start with 8 and go down. So one says Chad Amar time of the Beis Shammai connected Yom HaNechnasim. You want to do it with the days that are coming in. So right now there's 8 days of Chanukah, then the 7, then the 6. The time of the Beis Hillel connected Yom HaYotzin, and Beis Hillel's saying no. We want to light how many candles are with how many days have already left Chanukah. So we already lost. So on the first day you light 1, and then because we already went through 1 day of Chanukah, and then second day 2 days have gone from Chanukah, and then so on and so forth. The Chad Amar time of the Beis Shammai connected Parei Achag. And the other man Domer says no, it's neged the carbonus on sukkahs. If you notice, the carbonus on sukkahs went down, right? Every day they went down with 1 less carbon, so down to 7. So therefore, Beis Shammai said you do the same thing by Chanukah. But time of the Beis Hillel, the mile of a kaddish Mehadrin, and Beis Hillel says the reason why you start with 1 and then move up 2, 3, 4, 5 because you always go up in kedusha. We don't want to go down. Okay, so that's a machlokes and why Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai say the same thing. Should we do Tosfos? Okay, let's go weiter. There were 2 zakenim in Tzidon. Echad asik Beis Shammai, echad asik Beis Hillel. One did like Beis Shammai, one did like Beis Hillel. One said the reason why I'm doing it is because I want to do it the same way as the Karbonos on Sukkos. Then this one gave his reason because when Mile B'Kodesh, you go up in Kodesh and you don't go down. Okay, so we have a Maisa that they had that machlokes. Right? This is also very important Gemara as to where you light the menorah nowadays. Ner Chanukah is a mitzvah to put it on the doorway of your house on the outside. But if you live upstairs, you obviously can't put the menorah outside. You put it in the window that's close to Shusarabim. When it's dangerous to put it in the window or put it outside, you put it on your table and that's enough. Yeah, and then Rava says you need another ner to use the light. But if you have a torch on in the room, then you don't need it. And if you're an Adam Chashavu, even though there is a torch in the room, then you still need tzarich ner acheres. You need another ner because otherwise it will not be a hecker that you're lighting it for Chanukah. We're going to get back to this. This is not necessarily what a shamash is. Right here, we're saying that you need to it for a to make it recognizable that your Chanukah. Because back then they obviously didn't have electricity, right? And that's what the Gemara also means, that if you didn't have a torch. So if you have just a menorah sitting on your table, so it looks like you lit that menorah for light. So you light another candle, so that candle shows that you're not using it for, you're not using the menorah for light, because you have the other candle. This is to show that the menorah is there for the mitzvah. Right? Fine, but we'll see on Amud Aleph more about doing this. Yes, so my Chanukah, what is Chanukah all about? The Tana Rabbanon, the Chafei B'Kislev, Yom Chanukah Timnai Yinun. On the 25th of Kislev, the days of Chanukah are 8. The Loy L'Mispanim, you can't say Hespedim, or the Loy L'Sanis behind, and you're not allowed to fast. Shekashintlu, so Yivanim L'Hechel, Timu, Kol HaShemana Shebehechel. When the Yivanim went into the Beis hamikdash, they made all the oils Tamei, Ukashikover Malchus Beis Hashmonai B'Natzchum. And when the Beis Hashmonai overpowered them and won the war, or won the battles at least, they went in search and they didn't find only one oil, Shal Shemen, that had the seal of the Kohen Gadol on it. and it only had enough oil to light for one day. Nasa by Nace, and then happened to Nace with legal women of Shmona Yomim, and they lived from it 8 days. Lashon Acheres Kavim Masam Yom Tovim Bahal Vayda. And so the next year they made it days for Halal and Edah. So Taisus, by the way, says that it had to be because we just finished learning Tumah and Tara. So the Gemara Nida says that they were geyser Tumah and Goyim, and a guy would carry anything, it would come Tumah. So it must be that this was buried in the ground. So it has to be that the Goyim never carried it, because even if it was sealed, if the Goyim carried it, it was no good. Another thing that's interesting here, it says, the Gemara says, Lashana Acheres, the next year they were Kevei Chanukah for Halal and Hoidah. It doesn't say they were Kevei Chanukah to light a menorah. Right? Next, it didn't say they light the menorah. It's a big disagreement about when exactly they started lighting the menorah. Some say they started the next year. Some say it didn't happen until much later.
Tzvi Yaakov, how do we just drop a whole inyan of Tumah Tahara by Goyim? Like we obviously don't practice it now. So at what point do we?
No, I think that's not once we go back. Bez Hashem to Tumah and Tahara, then it'll be Nageya.
I mean, it's not Nageya now to anyone because we're all Tama anyway.
Correct.
So then what's the real big shiloh then? I know it's not Tumah Tahara then, but what's the real big shiloh with like Yain Nesach and stuff like that? Is that still just because of?
No, that's Avodah Zarah. That's Avodah Zarah issues.
Okay.
That's Avodah Zarah issues, so then it's
okay.
So then that's still pertinent.
Right. You pointed out that menorah is not mentioned here, but what's Hodah?
Halal and Hodah goes together, I think.
And but what is that? We know what Halal is. What's Hodah?
Maybe Al Anisim? Could that be because we say it in Hodah? That's what I think. Because the menorah is not for Rashi
to say.
What?
Isn't that what Rashi said?
Yeah.
Rashi say Anisim.
Because
Can't find the Rashi.
Yeah, there you go.
The 6-7 lines. Yeah. So right. That's what Rashi read. But from Rashi, it's mashma that it's. But although that could still go under both halal, okay, whatever it is, yeah, it's mashma like that in Rashi.
Good call.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the story with the menorah. Fine. It's not awesome. We learned the mission over there. Gates if a spark goes out from under a hammer, and it goes out and damages, so you are chayiv for that, right? Because it's your responsibility. Gomel shaton pishton, if you have a camel that's carrying flax, whoever b'shus harabim, and it's passing through a public property, right? And then it's the pishton, right? Since it was traveling in the street and it was overloaded, so then the flax went into the store, the dolka b'nera shel chanveri, and in the store he had a candle lit, and it lit up the whole wagon. Bidlakas abira, and it lit up the whole building. Balagomel chayev. So then there the balagomel is chayev because his pishton should not, his flax, his load should not have gone into the house. Haniya chenveni into the store. Haniya chenveni as nerabi b'chutz. But let's say the chenveni left his candle on the outside, then chenveni is chayev. Then the chenveni is chayev because he shouldn't have had his candle lit in the street. Rav Yehuda by ner Chanukah potter, but Rav Yehuda says by ner Chanukah's potter. Right? That's because he's allowed to have his candle out in the street. This is what it means to say it must be telling you that Ner Chanukah has got to be within 10 tefachim of the ground. Because if you think that it could be higher, you should have put because if it's allowed to be higher than 10, so then he could say, why are you putting your candle where it'll get hit by the loads in the Rishus Harabim? You should put it higher so it doesn't get hit by the candle. So the Gemara says, no, but maybe that's not true because perhaps it can be lit high. It can be put higher than 10, but maybe if you're going to tell the guy he's got to put it so high, higher than the height of a camel, he may just say he's not bothering to do it because it's a headache. So maybe you can light it less than 10. So the Gemara does not have a proof. Does
anyone say anything that this is the Mishnah that mentions Chanukah and this is the Rashi, the same mashal, the same thing when it describes Esav?
Esav.
Esav, Rashi, I think in Vayeshev or Mikate, right before Mikate, right before Hanukkah, the last Rashi. Right, it's a
That
camel
what describes
over,
what?
That's how it describes Esav, and how Yosef is going to beat Esav with a camel over
You mean
Laddie.
because and it's at the same time
And
as
at
Chanukah?
the same time in Chanukah, it's in the thing. It's
I
only
hear.
a
I'm
mission
sure
that mentions Chanukah.
I'm sure to discuss it, but I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Fine. Weiter. Amar Rav Kahana Dorish Rav Nosson Mimnim Mishmeid Rav Tanchum Ner Shel Chanukah Shenichu L'Mal Michavam Psula Kesukah Kumodi. A Ner Chanukah that you put higher than 20 amos, so then it's puzzle. It's like a sukkah and a mavui, right? Because just like a sukkah higher than 20 amos is no good, and a mavui is for an eruv. If you put it higher than 20 amos, then we had this in Shabbos, then that's also no good. So now the question to be asked on both these things. So if it's less than 10, how come nowadays we put it higher than 10? So less than 10 is really for outside. It doesn't apply if you're lighting in the window. And lamala michaf, what about apartment buildings if you live on like the 3rd or 4th floor and up? So Ramesha has this famous tshuva where he says as long as his apartment building is across from you, then you're allowed to, because the people that are across will see your menorah. And others say no, as long as you have something to follow it up, meaning you have your eyes can follow the building, and then you look up and you see, then that's enough too. Yeah, fine.
But by sukka, that's not enough.
What? There's a shichita like that.
There's a shichita that by sukka that's enough.
Yes.
Yeah,
We
but you
don't
follow
pass
it up.
like that shichita though.
No, I know we don't pass like that. But for Chanukah, there are those that say that it would be for Chanukah. What? Starts presuming nisa. Yes, you just got to make sure that you see it, that people see it.
How high is 20 amos?
That's you think we're going to get in a full agreement on that one, Simon?
What do you hold? You're the Rav and Shmuel.
I don't hold anything. We go l'chumra always.
Okay, so l'chumra, what's 20 amos?
Between 20, the smallest measurements around 20 feet is around the foot an amma, to the biggest is around 2 feet and change. A chazanish is 2 feet and change per amma.
So you're talking maybe 40 feet up then?
40 feet, yeah.
Okay.
40 feet. You know what else, Tro? There's also an interesting thing, but let's say you have one of these large menorahs on the floor. Does the 10 tefachim go with the menorah, the bottom of the menorah being under the 10 tefachim, or does it go where the candles are?
Always wondering that.
Yeah, so the person discussed that. So they also say this shtickle with it. As long as your eyes could follow it or something, then it's okay. Fine. This is just because it's the same person, so we're quoting something else from him. Right, a famous Rashi brings this by yosef when they threw him into the bar. So the pasuk says the bar was empty, but there was no water in it. Why do you have to say the bar was empty? There was no water in it. What does aim by mean? There was no water in it, but there were snakes and scorpions in there. Fine. Also a famous Gemara. The Ner Chanukah, the mitzvah is to put it within a tefach that's close to your doorway. And where do you put it? You put it on the right side. Rav Shmuel, you put it on the left side. You put it on the left. In order that the Ner Chanukah should be on your left and the mezuzah should be on your right, and therefore you're surrounded by mitzvahs. We have a big disagreement between this Gemara, and not a disagreement, but in practical halacha between what does this have a priority, or does lighting in the window have a priority? Right? Chassidim keep this as a priority. That's why Chassidim always light in the doorway, because they want to be surrounded by mitzvahs. And they don't care so much about the window, since anyways we're in Golus, like the Gemara said before, and it's a Makom Sakana. Litfish, put it in the window, and we don't put it in the door. But if somebody's not lighting in the window anyways, because they live in a basement, etc., then for sure they should put it in the doorway. Right? So now this is another Gemara about a shamash. You're not allowed to count your money neged ner Chanukah, next to ner Chanukah. Does the ner have holiness to it? Why can't you count your money to it, next to it? So Rav Yosef asked him, does blood have kedusha? The Tani v'shavach chisa, right, it says that when the blood spills, so you have to do kisi adam, right, from a chaya,
right,
or a oif, you got to cover up with dirt. Right? What you should not cover it with your foot, meaning don't kick the dirt on top of the blood, right? So that mitzvah shouldn't be bezuyas enough. So here too, it's not pshat that there's kedusha to the oil, just like there's no holiness to the blood, but because it's a mitzvah, so therefore you don't do anything mundane with a mitzvah. It's the same thing by Chanukah. You don't do anything mundane to the lights of the menorah, right? So that's another reason why. Meaning the reason before we saw in Beis, right, an Amud ago, that you need to have another candle lit is just to show that the menorah is not lit for light. Here we're saying maybe the reason to do it is so that if you're going to use the light, then you shouldn't be benefiting from the kedusha of the neros.
Okay? You mean the shamash, yeah?
That's the shamash, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you use the noise sukkah, the sukkah decorations? Are you allowed to use them a whole 7 days? Didn't we just say that you're not allowed to count your money neged ner Chanukah? Right? So Amar Rav Yosef Marid Avram, which is a lashon of like God of Avram, right? Meaning it's I don't know if it's a swearing, but it's meaning he was it's a lashon tamir. Rashi says it's like Marid Avram, like God of Avram. Tali Tani b'delay Tanya. You're taking something that says openly and you're twisting it, meaning you're taking something that says beferish and you're trying to tie it into something that it doesn't say openly, right? Tali Tani b'delay Tanya. Sukka Tanya, Chanukah loy Tanya. By Sukka it says it outright, and you're trying to say, oh, is Chanukah the same as Sukka? It should be the other way around. Is Sukka the same as Chanukah? The Tanya Schach Kilchasa. If you do your schach properly, and you crown it with sheets and all sorts of decorations, with the hamikdash means that have how do you say it?
Embroidered.
Embroidered is the way they talk. Okay, Vitziar means they have pictures and stuff like that. The talaba goizim and you hang nuts. A parsikin is what is that? Apricots. Shkedim nuts. A reminder pomegranates. Bachili anovim. Clusters of grapes. Itzoi shel shiboilin. Yeah, that's grain. Yeinois, shmanim, slasois, oil, wine, flour. Also, you are not allowed to use that until after the last Yom Tov of Chag. But if you make a Tanai, meaning before you hang it up, you say, I'm making a Tanai that I'm going to be able to use some of this flour or some of this oil or some of these grapes, then everything goes according to the Tanai. So you see, it's a beferish brisa about sukkah, and Rabbi Shmuel and Levi wanted to bring a proof from Chanukah to sukkah. So that's why he was asking, what do you mean bring a proof from Chanukah to sukkah? Sukkah says beferish, meaning you should go to Chanukah. Elam Rav Yosef, this is what Rav Yosef meant. Avoid the kula dam. The father of all these things is blood, meaning we learn out from blood that all these things, Chanukah, sukkah, they all come ultimately. They can trace the roots back to blood. Now, interesting though, and this is the mistake that people make about noise sukkah.
What does that mean?
Same thing.
Back to
what?
Blood. What does that mean? Back to blood.
Meaning, we learn out from blood that you're not supposed to kick things on and all that. Meaning that you shouldn't make a bizayon from mitzvahs. So therefore, the same thing. That's why noise sukkah you can't use it because you're using it as a bizayon. Right? If you hang it up to make your sukkah beautiful, then you decide to use the grapes or the flour or the oil, whatever it is, then you're being mavaza a mitzvah. And same thing if you use the Chanukah neros to count your money, so then it's also using it as you're being mavaza a mitzvah. So that all comes from dam, from the halacha that we learn by dam. Yeah, we all learn it out from dam. Now, the mistake that people make, side by Chanukah and side by really more by sukkah, is they think, so we learn out from this that noise sukkah is muksa, right? Noise sukkah is only muksa if you use it for your own personal use. But if the noise sukkah falls down, you want to hang it back up. It's not muksa like Shabbos. Of course you hang it back up. And if the noise sukkah, something goes wrong with it, then of course you can take it down, fix it, and do whatever you want. It's not muksa like Shabbos. Shabbos is muksa because
on Yom Tov you can fix it, or on Chol Hamoed?
Well, that's a different thing. On Yom Tov you can't fix it because you're not allowed to fix on Yom Tov. Right, but if it falls on your table and If it falls on your table, you're allowed to pick it up. Well, on Yom Tov maybe it's muksa, but certainly it's during Chol Hamoed. It falls on your table, pick it up and go hang it back up. It's only muksa for us to use for our own benefit. It's not muksa like it is for Shabbos. Yeah, fine. Itmar Rav, because again, you're allowed for its own benefit. Is not called being mevazeh. Correct? Fine. Itmar Rav Amar ein madlikim ner lener. Rav says you're not allowed to light from one candle to another candle. This is negay a little bit. Yes, you're not allowed to light from one candle to the other candle. Shmuel Amar madlikim, and Shmuel says you are allowed to light from one candle to the other. Meaning, let's say one of your Chanukah candles goes out. Do you have to use an independent candle to relight the one that went out, or can you take the fire from one of the other candles? Right? And there's two ways of taking the fire from the candle. You can either pull the wick out, like the wick that's next to it, stretch it and light it from there, or you could take a candle, which is what most people do, and then light it, right? So is that called being mavaza the existing candle because you're taking the light? So if you go from one to the other straight, maybe that's more mutter, which we'll see on Amud Beis. But if you use a third-party candle, right, like a shamish, that one that has no kedusha to it at all. So that is more shver. Okay, so we'll see how we go through this. So again, Rav says you're not allowed to light from one candle to the other. And Shmuel says you are allowed. Rav Amrin Mehadrin sits in beged lebeged. You're not allowed to take tzitzis off one beged and put it onto another beged. Shmuel Amar Mehadrin beged lebeged. Shmuel says you are allowed to go from one beged to another beged. Rav Amar ein halacha Rav Shimon begreira. Shmuel Amar halacha Rav Shimon begreira. The halacha is not like Rav Shimon by dragging, and Shmuel says the halacha is like Rav Shimon begreira. That's talking about the famous case of dragging a bench on the ground on Shabbos. And you don't know, but you're not interested in making a hole in the ground as you drag the bench. So are you allowed to drag the bench or not? So Rav says you're not allowed to, and Shmuel says you are allowed to, right? That's the big sugya of psik ratio, right? Meaning if something, you're not interested in doing something, but that is going to happen anyways, is that also on Shabbos? Fine. So Amar Rabbi, call me the Mar Ovid Karav. Mar, he did everything like Rav, Lavar Mehani Tlas, David Kishmuel, except for these three things that he did like Shmuel, which is why we paskin like Shmuel. Madlikim Menorah Lener, he did light from one candle to the other candle, Martin Rebeg Lebeg, and he did untie tzitzis from one bag and put it onto another bag, and he held like Rav Shimon by dragging. The Tani Rav Shimon, a person is allowed to drag a chair or a bench on the ground, as long as his intent is not to make a hole in the ground, or make how do you call it? A trough? How do you say it?
Furrow.
A furrow. There you go. Okay, thank you. So as long as you don't have kavana to make the furrow, right? So it's a very fine point, meaning you're making the furrow. The question is, do you want that furrow? So if you want that furrow, according to everybody, then you're not allowed to do it. The question is, you don't want that furrow. Is it a problem or not? So Rav says you're not allowed to do it. Shmuel says you are allowed to do it. And we pass them like Shmuel, who pass them like Rav Shimon, that you're allowed to do it. Okay, obviously yeah.
What's the reason for Shmuel and tzitzis? Meaning, I'm sorry, not Shmuel. Rav's reason for asking tzitzis, moving from one. How's that bizarre to the first one? You're trying to make another beged with tzitzis. Meaning, what's the right. is there the issur from Rav because of Zion also in the second case with tzitzis?
Yes, because it's once something's on a beged, you don't want to remove the mitzvah from it. Basically, so the Tosfos
let's say the beged becomes puzzle. Let's say one of the tzitzis rips, so you want to remove the other three and put another beged. Would that also be a
I can't say for sure, but I think then it wouldn't be a problem. Mezuzah, right? When somebody leaves the house, are they allowed to take the mezuzah with them and put it up someplace else? You're not allowed to, right? That's because once the door has a mezuzah on it, then you don't want to remove that mitzvah from there. So same thing with the beged. You don't want to remove the mitzvah from it. Yes, there's all sorts of shticks. You replace it with a different tzitzis, you replace it with a different mezuzah, but the basic halacha tells you can't do it. That's basically what the pshat is. Yeah?
Okay.
Fine. Okay, so now we get back into the sugya of the candles. Yosef, one of the Rabbana was sitting in front of Rav Barava. Yosef Kamar, and he says, "Time of the Rav shum bizay mitzvah." The reason why Rav says you're not allowed to do it is because it's a desire to the mitzvah. Amar lahu, so he said to him, don't listen to him. It's not because bizui mitzvah, it's because makrish mitzvah. You're actually, I don't know how they taish it, but you're taking away from a mitzvah. You're ruining a mitzvah. My benaya, what's the difference between the two? If you light directly from one candle of the menorah to the other without a middleman, if it's because of design of mitzvah, directly from one of the candles on the menorah to the other is not a design because both of them are mitzvahs. The one that says that you're ruining a mitzvah, you're weakening it, so then from one light to another, it's also a problem. Right? Because you're taking away you're taking away some fuel from one and putting it the other. Right? So Masiv, Rav Avia, Sela Shal Maisa. So if you have a Sela of Maisa, so the way Maisa worked, Sela Shal Maisa Sheni, the way it works is Maisa Sheni. So basically, you have to bring up your fruits in the 2nd and the 6th year. You have to bring your fruits up to Yerushalayim. Now to take bushels and bushels of fruit up to Yerushalayim is not practical, especially since the airline started charging after one suitcase, right? So it's a problem. So what would you do? You take all your fruits, you put it onto, you say all the kedusha from the fruit goes onto a coin, and then you take the coin up to Yerushalayim, and when you get to Yerushalayim, you buy fruit with the coin, right? So now this coin gets kedusha, right? You took your apples, put the kedusha onto the coin. Now can you use that coin as a counterweight to weigh things on a scale? Okay, so Selav Shal Meiser Sheni ain't Shaykul Kenegdei Din Rezov. You are not allowed to use it as a counterweight to calculate how heavy gold coins are. Even if you plan on using those coins for Meiser Sheni. So now the Gemara says, what's the kasha? But if you said a whole machlokes is like we said that it's only when it's going from ner to ner. But if you use a kinsa, which is like a shamish, a middle candle to light it, then Shmuel agrees that it's also halot yavet yufta. Then there's no kasha because from here also we're saying that you can't use it. But if you say that Shmuel allows, even if you use a shamish to light from one candle of the Menorah to the other, so then this is a kasha. This brisa will be a kasha to Shmuel because you say that you're not allowed to use the coin, even if you're going to use the coin indirectly to put more Meiser Sheni, meaning the coins that you're using to calculate, you're going to use it for Meiser Sheni, but since it's not being direct, then you're not allowed to use the kasha. No, that's a different reason. Really, you would be able to do it if it would be going, the other coins would be going to Meiser Sheni, but it's a gezerah. You're not going to wait. Your weights are going to be off a little bit, and you're going to end up putting the coin out to chulin. So we don't want you to do that. So then we said you cannot use coins that already have kedusha on it, but otherwise you would be able to, right? So basically, we're still going to paskin like Shmuel. I'll tell you what this is negeya. This is also negeya to Friday night. The Gemara is discussing it by Chanukah, but Friday night's the same thing. So a woman's lighting the candles Friday night, right? And one of the candles goes out. And then she realizes it after she already put out the match that lit all the candles. So now what? So can you go, those Friday night candles also have Kedusha. It's not simple. It's really better not to take another candle or a match and light it from one of the existing Shabbos candles and then to go light the other candle because you're going through a third party. Push comes to shove, it's okay, but it's really better not to do that. Yes, you should light up a new match in order to light that candle. Fine. Masav Rav Sheshes has a kasha mechutza pareiches eidus yarif. Put the menora on the outside of the pareiches. That's where it should be set up. Right? So from the pasuk, it sounds like that we need the menorah for its or. Do we need it for the or? But like all 40 years that Bnei Yisrael traveled in the midbar. Didn't they go with the or of the what do you call it? How do you call this? How do you not the or of the, what were the clouds? What do they call them?
Amud.
What?
Am I covered? And now you're covered?
Yes. Meaning we don't need Hashem, we don't need the menorah lit for light. Right? What do we need the menorah for? It's edus to the whole world that the Shechina is resting by Klal Yisrael. My edus, what is the edus? What do you mean, how is that edus? How is the edus? Amarav zuner maravi shenoisim pashemen. The edus is the westernmost candle of the menorah. Shenoisim pashemen kamidas chaver said they put in the same amount of oil into the furthermost west candle of the menorah. And they would light from there first, and then they would finish with that one. That candle too. Basically, the menorah was lit a whole night, and then it went out, and that one stayed lit, and it had the same amount of oil. This is a whole long Rashi exactly how this worked. Whatever it was a nace. The westernmost candle was a nace that it had the same amount of oil and lit for a lot longer. Right now here, so basically in the menorah, all the candles were set. Right, and you were not able to carry the candles. But look at they lit it, right? So the Gemara says, "Kasha mitzvah." It's a kasha on both. Meaning, how did they light? Meaning, they lit the menorah from the furthermost west candle that's on the menorah, right? They didn't, and they were not able to pick up each individual glass. They didn't have glass. Meaning, the candles were set in the menorah. So how did they get it lit? So it's a kasha from both. Meaning, it must be that they lit it one from the other. So then it's a kasha that they lit one candle from the other candles. So it must be talking about where they used. I'm sorry, I didn't explain this properly. Basically, since the menorahs were all set, since each candle, I don't know if we call it candle. The menorah had seven things. It wasn't a cup. It really wasn't a cup, right? It was. They didn't use glass inserts like us lazy people do nowadays. They lit it straight into the metal, right? So you couldn't pick up. If you have a solid metal menorah, how are you getting one lit one from the other? Elamai, they must have used a shamish. That's the Gemara's kasha. Must be, how did they get it from the westernmost thing? They must have used the candle to go from one to the other. So you see, according to both shitas, right? Then it's a problem because they must be lighting one from the other. Again, and the whole kasha becomes because we said that they lit it from the western light. If it wouldn't say that, then of course they just took a lighter and lit each one. But we're saying that the fire came from the westernmost candle that was on the menorah. So clearly they were using an intermediary to light from one to the other. So it's a kasha on both. So somewhere where they had very long wicks. So what they did was they would pull out the wick from the western one, pull it out far enough to light it directly without using a middleman, put it back, and then they would take the next one, pull out the wick, right? So that stayed lit and move it over. So obviously the question is that only answers according to one mandomer, not according to the other one. The mitzvah kasha, but according to mandomer, it says that it's taking away from a mitzvah because you're taking some fuel from one candle and moving it to the other candle. Then it's still shver. So when it says kasha, yeah, it is a kasha. My havela is always.
What do you mean? You said this earlier. I didn't nail it. When you say you're taking away, when you move a wick to ignite another wick, that's not taking away fuel. Fire doesn't take away from fire. If you were saying you're taking oil from one to the other, it's a different story.
Right, but that's the way. I think that's the way Rashi says it.
Rashi says in the Amud Aleph that way. The bottom Rashi.
Right, look at the second Rashi. Turn back to Chavez Amud Aleph, second to last Rashi. Chushay. Yeah, you see it?
Oh yeah, last second.
Seconds, yeah. The michsi command. You're right. He says the michsi command the shachanur v'shoy v'katzas melachluchus, because it looks like. Meaning, you're right. Maybe Taka, that's a good order. It's not that they're actually taking fuel. It looks like you're taking fuel, and it looks like you're taking away from mitzvah.
It's as if you're like diminishing the chashivas of
right. No, but I've been explaining it that you're taking something away, and the truth is you're right. Rashi's saying it as lashon of mechsi. It only looks like you're taking away.
Right. You're making like that one candle that you take away from. It's like a helper candle. It's not like the mitzvah itself type of deal.
Right. Exactly.
It's one of those kira varts. It's one of those kira varts we always say. You know, the fire of Torah, when you give it over, you're only increasing flames, not diminishing. It's the one you give over that you don't do.
Here, very good.
It's
very
like you
good.
spent time in NCSY, you sure?
It's almost like.
I hear. Whatever it is, you're right. So it's only messy, but the truth is you're right. It's not taking anything away. One fire doesn't lose any fuel, but it looks like that. Either way, the Gemara is saying, so that's a good order. Thank you. So then it says kasha. Lamaitz, it's a kasha on that mandamer. Anyways. Fine. So the Gemara says, my havila, what's the din? Now we're going to stop mid-sugi here because it goes for a while. And it's been long enough here. But my havila, what is the halacha? Bottom line is, can you or can you not? If hadlaka makes the mitzvah, then you're allowed to light from one candle to the other candle because the mitzvah is already done. Meaning, there's a machlokes, and if just putting it down is the mitzvah, then you're not allowed to light from one to the other. We'll explain this. They had a question: hadlaka is a mitzvah, hanocha is a mitzvah. Does the hadlaka make the mitzvah, or does the hanocha make the mitzvah? Meaning, hanocha means basically, do you have to just have candles lit in your house? But we don't care if you lit them yourself or didn't light them yourself. Or is the hadlaka make the mitzvah? And as long as you lit it, then we don't care what happens afterwards. The biggest, most practical nafkamina with this would be, is let's say those that light outside, so it's very windy, right? So you got a smart idea. Let me light the candles inside, put them in the box inside, and then bring the box outside. So if you say hanocha zayis mitzvah, so as long as you put down the menorah outside, you're okay. Then that would be proper. If you say hadlaka zayis mitzvah, so now you have to light it. You have to light the menorah in the place that it's supposed to be lit. So if you lit it inside, you didn't light it in the proper place, and it's no good, right? And the same thing would apply inside your house. You lit it someplace, you see the kids are going to get to it, so you move the menorah. So that's what, if you say hanocha zayis mitzvah, so who cares? As long as you placed it someplace kosher, it's fine. We don't care where you lit it. But if you light it, if the lighting is the mitzvah, so then it's a problem. So the Gemara wants to say the same thing would be here. If it's
isn't there a special like compensation for something like kids being able to knock into them?
That's like true, but you have to put it in a proper place before you light it. That's all.
No, meaning
obviously don't burn your house down if that's going to happen.
No, I'm saying like we do our candles right where I'm sitting. In fact, right in front of the windows. But my 3-year-old is a monster, and he wants to see everything, and he's gonna knock over. He wants to.
Right.
Hold on. He wants to pull down or try to get up to see the candles, but in the interim, he'll probably pull down the table. So my wife and I will go and go, oh, geez, you go and move it quickly because.
No, obviously you don't put if as long as we pass on hadlaka zayis mitzvah, as long as you lit it there, then you're fine, right? As long as it was lit in the proper place, then you're fine. We're talking about if you would light it, let's say on the dining room table, and then after he goes to sleep, move it to the window. Yeah.
Okay.
Right? That would be no good.
Okay. Fine.
Obviously, if once you did the mitzvah, then you can move it, right? Okay. But that's what we're saying here. So if hadlaka zayis mitzvah, so once you lit the menorah, so now you did the mitzvah. Now you can go stretch it and light from there to the rest of the candles. But if it's hanocha zayis mitzvah, then the mitzvah is not done yet. Tells man that it's sitting there. So that's going to be the Gemara's question, and the Gemara will discuss this. It's a whole long sugi here, so I guess we'll leave it at this point here, and we'll continue it tomorrow. Rez Hashem.
Shalom.
All right.
Take potato.
Good vach, and everybody stay safe. We should.
Good vach.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Yeah. You guys can go on the treadmill now or not?
I don't see why not. Shouldn't it strengthen your lungs, if anything?
If you start coughing like crazy, get off.
Yeah, I would say that.
Well, you can't stop yourself, so I don't know about that.
I was thinking people should exercise.
What?
21. What?
Listen, exercise is very good for stress.
I know, but maybe 10 minutes and not more, Israel.
On Thursday, I had the saddest phone call you ever heard in your life.
You sure about that?
What?
I said, you sure about that?